Okay, so that's it for the first listing. The question all of them are answering is, have you been in a natural disaster? Most of them said yes, but one or two said no, not really a natural disaster, but some other kind of problem. So what I'd like you to do first of all, or actually Yuta, you missed it, so do you feel like you understood most of the details, or would you like to listen one more time before we answer? Okay, why don't we listen one more time, and then we'll try to answer with a partner. So the question, have you been in a natural disaster? All right, just to check. Number one, the first man, what did he say? Yes or no?
Typhoons.
Okay, yes, he was in a typhoon in Hong Kong. And he said actually the water, the flooding was getting higher and higher, and he was inside a phone booth, inside like a glass phone box. And so kind of trying to find shelter. And so he's been in one. Alright, so let's go back. Let's listen one more time and then just answer. So, have you been in a natural disaster? And then what type, what kind, what was the problem? So one more time, let's listen.
I was in a typhoon in Hong Kong, and I just arrived with a big heavy backpack, and I had to hide in a telephone box while the street flooded and the water came up around me.
Natural disaster. No, I haven't been in a natural disaster. Unfortunately, I was very close to a bomb which went off in Manchester when I was about 16 years old, which was quite scary, but probably not as scary as a tsunami or a typhoon or something.
Oh, yes, I have been in a natural disaster. I forget what year, but Hurricane Miki in Hawaii. But I lived on Oahu, so we got the eye of the hurricane, so it wasn't like harsh at all. In fact, I remember when it hit, I remember telling my parents I wanted to go out and fly a kite because it looked so nice outside. So it wasn't really that bad of an experience for me.
Yes, I have. I've been in a fire, a really big one actually. It was just very scary. There was just smoke everywhere and I couldn't see anything. My eyes were hurting, I was choking, and I really thought I was going to die. But I was rescued by an old man passing by.
Okay, have I been in a natural disaster? Well, I've actually seen what happened while I was driving. And this was along, I think, coast, I think it's called the Pacific Ocean Highway, if I'm not wrong. Anyway, there was, in December 2004, I think, it was, there was a big landslide during the raining season in Los Angeles. And while I was driving, I actually saw it. And then I didn't know what was damaged like, but it was all over the news. And then it was bad.
Yeah, actually, I was staying with friends in Norway, and we were camping, and we got hit by a blizzard, and it was really frightening. But luckily, I was with some big Viking Norwegian guys, and they knew exactly what to do because I didn't. It was really, you couldn't see anything. It was so white, and the snow was so heavy, and it actually hurt quite a lot, and it didn't help. It was absolutely freezing.
Okay, so those are the 6. So what I'd like you to do for a few minutes, I'd like you to check with your partner just the basic details. Then I'll give you the script, and then we'll look through the script all together. I'll explain some vocabulary, we'll do some discussion, and then one more short article talking about Hurricane Sandy. So Yuta, can you guys work together on this side? And Kari, let's go one more time, you guys. So just basic details that you were able to catch.
Los Angeles,
in Norway. I think near LA, or close to LA.
They are having blizzard. It was frightening and heavy snow.
Okay, so did you do okay with it? Alright, so first one was the typhoon in Hong Kong. Number 2, she said no. She said no, she wasn't, or she hasn't been in a natural disaster, but she said she was really close to a bomb that went off in Manchester. So this would probably be the Irish, the IRA. So back in the 1980s, part of the 1990s, there was a lot of terrorism between like North Ireland, South Ireland, you know, kind of attacking England. So she experienced a bomb going off, but not a natural disaster. Next one, Hurricane Yuniki in Hawaii. But he said not a bad experience because he was in the eye of the storm. So the middle of the storm, it's really calm, it's not so bad. Next one, kind of a natural disaster. She said she was in a fire, a really big fire, and some man came and saved her. The next one was in Singapore, sorry, not Singapore, this was in Los Angeles, and landslide, really big landslide. So a landslide is where you have maybe some kind of a hill, and maybe because of so much rain, maybe part of the hill kind of comes off, and anything below that maybe gets really serious damage or buried or something. Kind of like an avalanche, but just with dirt, with land. And then finally, the last person was in Norway with some friends, and a blizzard, experienced a blizzard. A blizzard just means a very, very serious snowstorm. Very, very strong snowstorm where you can't really see anything, you can't find your way around. And so he experienced a blizzard. He said, luckily though, he had some friends that knew what to do, knew how to deal with the situation, and so he was okay. So let's go back through it. So we have 3 people from the UK. George is from the US, Bernace is from Jamaica, and then Mike is from Singapore. So each of these speakers, a little bit different accent. So, alright, first one. I was in a typhoon in Hong Kong. I just arrived with a big heavy backpack, and I had to hide in a telephone box while the street flooded and the water came up around me. So, if you say the water comes up around you, it means it's actually rising pretty deep. So, could be a very serious situation for him. Number 2, natural disaster, no. I haven't been in a natural disaster. Unfortunately, I was very close to a bomb, which went off in Manchester when I was about 16 years old, which was quite scary, but probably not as scary as a tsunami or a typhoon or something. George from the US, yes, I've been in a natural disaster. I forget what year, but Hurricane Yuniki in Hawaii. But I lived on Oahu, so we got the eye of the hurricane, so it wasn't that harsh at all. Harsh just means very strong, very intense. So if you have a hurricane, you know, of course the hurricane is kind of going in a circle, but the middle part is called the eye of the hurricane, and it's not very strong. Often it's very calm weather. So for him, it wasn't bad. Says, in fact, I remember when it hit. If a storm hits, it means the storm arrives. The storm comes. You say, when it hit, I remember telling my parents I wanted to go out and fly a kite because it looked so nice outside. So it wasn't really that bad of an experience for me. Number 4, from Jamaica. Yes, I have. I've been in a fire, a really big one, actually. It was just very scary. There was just smoke everywhere. I couldn't see anything. My eyes were hurting. I was choking. And I really thought I was going to die. But I was rescued by an old man passing by. An old man passing by means just by chance. Random chance. This man is passing maybe a building, maybe a house. And he comes and he rescues her. So just very lucky. Now, I don't think a fire is a natural disaster unless it starts from lightning. If there's a lightning storm, fire begins, that's a natural disaster. But this sounds maybe like a house. So probably not really natural disaster. It's not natural. Number 5, Mike from Singapore. Okay, have I been in a natural disaster? Well, I've actually seen one happen while I was driving, and this was along, I think, the coast. I think it's called the Pacific Ocean Highway. It's the name of a road, if I'm not wrong. Anyway, there was in December 2004, I think it was, there was a big landslide during the rainy season in Los Angeles. And while I was driving, I actually saw it, and then I didn't know what was damaged, but it was all over the news, and it was really bad. Okay, all over the news means basically every news channel is talking about it, reporting it, newspapers, so it's a very serious story, very serious disaster. And then finally, Duran from the UK. Yeah, actually, I was staying with some friends in Norway. We were camping, and we got hit by a blizzard, and it was really frightening. Okay, again, hit. A lot of times when people talk about a storm that comes, they say we get hit by the storm. So, got hit by a blizzard, it was really frightening. But luckily, I was with some big Viking Norwegian guys, and they knew exactly what to do because I didn't. Okay, big Viking Norwegian guys. Okay, do you know the word Viking? Oh, Viking describes like Northern Europeans, maybe 1,000 years ago, who used to have maybe, helmets with big horns, and they would go attack, England and things like that. So the Vikings, of course, a lot of them have kind of bad reputation for being very aggressive and attacking and invading, but they also have a reputation for being very tough, very strong. So their reputation is kind of half good, half bad. Here it means good. They're strong, they're tough, they have control, they know what to do. So they're helping their English friend. So it was really, you couldn't see anything. It was so white, the snow was so heavy, it actually hurt quite a lot. And it didn't help that it was absolutely freezing. Very, very cold. Of course, a blizzard, very cold. Okay, so these different people have kind of experienced this variety of disasters. Let's do some discussion. Down below, have you heard about any recent natural disasters? Now, actually, I wrote this lesson about 1 year ago, so I wasn't really preparing for Sandy, Hurricane Sandy, but probably most of you have heard about that one, or maybe some other natural disasters recently. So where, when, and what was the death toll? Death toll means the total number of people who died. That's called the death toll. What was the worst natural disaster in Japanese history? Have you ever been in a natural disaster or some other extreme experience? Is there a natural disaster you are particularly frightened of? Which one? For example, I guess in Japan, most people, the biggest one would be earthquakes. But if you're in America, maybe Kansas, Indiana, probably tornado. If you're in maybe California, maybe earthquake or maybe fire. Like a forest fire is a really big problem. So it kind of depends on what area of the world, but what do you think? Which one are you the most afraid of? What are the most common natural disasters in Japan? Do you worry about them very much? Do you think natural disasters are becoming more common compared to the past? Do you think scientists will be able to avert most natural disasters through technology or some other way? I mean, in the future, far in the future. Avert means to stop or to make less serious. Do you think that's a possibility? What do you think? Alright, so with your partner, for a few minutes, I'd like you to go through these questions, and then we'll continue with one more article in the back afterwards. So maybe 10 minutes, maybe? Okay. Have you guys ever been in a natural disaster where you felt real fear? You felt maybe I'm going to die? No. Are you really afraid of earthquakes? Like if you feel earthquake like now, does your heart start beating faster? Do you feel a little fear?
I can't expect.
Just that, like that complete surprise, I guess, maybe. I don't know, but lots of disasters in Japan. Alright, we'll turn the page. Let's take a look at one more article, and then we'll take a break after this probably. So, the vocabulary at the top, we have the 10 vocabulary to match. So, at least, hit, asking, devastating, disturbing, expert, threat, mixture, rare, and certain. Alright, so, at least.
Not less.
Yeah, not less than. So, in the article it says, Hurricane Sandy killed at least 62 people. Means 62 people they have confirmed, they know for sure, but probably more. When they do more searching, more reports, probably more. So not less than. Number 2, hit. Struck. Yeah, so hit or struck. Very, very common to use this for storms. So it hit or it struck. Number 3, asking. Questioning. Devastating. Damaging, yeah. Devastating is a little bit bigger though. If you say that the damage was devastating, it means very, very strong damage. So, devastate. No, that's not it. How do you spell devastate? There we go. So, devastate, the vocabulary here, definition says to lay waste. That means very strong damage. For synonyms, let's look at a few synonyms. So to destroy, yeah, demolish, ravage, flatten. I mean, it's kind of like, let's say you have an earthquake and you say, Atre Francais was devastated. It doesn't mean a few cracks. It means it fell down. I mean, very, very strong damage. So to devastate is very bad. How about disturbing?
Disturbing, worrying.
Worrying, yeah, it matches with worrying. Expert?
Specialist.
Specialist, yeah. Threat?
Danger.
Danger. Mixture?
Combination.
Yeah. Rare?
Uncommon.
And certain.
Uncertain.
Okay. Certain, yeah. So certain would be what? Sure. You're sure of something. So I'm certain that Keigo is coming today. I'm sure he's coming today. Although I'm not actually. So Sandy. Sandy asks new climate change questions. Alright, now in Japan, if you have a hurricane, or I guess in Japan you say typhoon. So in the Pacific Ocean, the name is typhoon. In the Atlantic Ocean, the name is hurricane. But it's actually the same storm. It's the same type of storm. So it's just different ocean. So in the West, though, we usually give a name to the hurricane. So Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Sandy. Japan is just number?
Yeah.
Just number 1, number 2, number 3. Okay. So what do you think about naming the hurricanes?
Why is already named?
Actually, it's not always. I'm not sure how they decide, but it's not always women's names. Yeah, there is Hurricane George or Hurricane other. There are other names as well. So I think it's alphabetical. I think you start with the A, B, C, D, E, F, but I'm not sure how they decide the hurricane names. But yeah, so maybe Katrina was K, and now we're up to S, and then maybe continue around. So, but yeah, not always women. But usually, often women. So Hurricane Sandy killed at least 62 people and caused billions of dollars of damage to America's East Coast. Water from the superstorm, which hit on Tuesday night, has flooded subways and tunnels in New York City and cut off electricity to millions of homes. Politicians and scientists are now asking whether America and the world are ready for such devastating and deadly weather events. Sandy has firmly put climate change back onto the agenda of the 2012 presidential election. Okay, back onto the agenda. If you say that a topic is on the agenda, it means it's a topic that they will talk about. They will discuss. If you're thinking about the presidential election, most Americans are most concerned about the economy. They want to know what are the politicians going to do about the economy. That's their number one concern. But of course they worry about healthcare, they worry about foreign policy, they worry about other issues. And now global warming is now back into their concern. They want to know, if I vote for Obama, if I vote for Romney, what are they going to do to try to reduce the effects of global warming? So it's back on the agenda. Former US Vice President Al Gore told reporters, Hurricane Sandy is a disturbing sign of things to come. We must pay attention to this warning and act quickly to solve the climate crisis. Mr. Gore added, dirty energy makes dirty weather. Okay, do you understand that? Dirty energy. Okay, dirty energy would be things like oil and coal and natural gas, energy sources that cause lots of pollution, which cause greenhouse gases, which cause global warming, which causes maybe these kind of disasters. So it's kind of, dirty energy, dirty weather, it's kind of it's easy to remember. In English you say this is a sound bite. A sound bite means a short phrase that becomes very popular in the media. They make some really little clever short phrase, and then many newspapers or TV stations are going to copy and copy and copy. This is a sound bite. I wonder if they have a definition for sound bite. Let me check really quick. But in American media, they're very common to talk about this kind of thing. So a sound, no, don't have sound barrier. Bite. No, I don't see it. That's a little unusual. I thought they would. No, I don't see it. Okay, but a soundbite is that kind of short phrase that people talk about again and again. Climate expert Dr. Shea Wolf warned of a future full of Frankenstorms. Frankenstorms. Okay, do you understand this? Or can you guess what this means? Yeah, Frankenstein, yeah. Frankenstein was like, a created monster. So humans created Frankenstein. So kind of you can say we created Sandy because we made the pollution, we caused the climate change, so it's a Frankenstorm. It's a monster storm that we made. Sometimes people say Frankenfood. Have you ever heard of that? Frankenfood. It's like a GM food, like genetically modified food, where you take maybe a tomato and then maybe a little bit of fish DNA and you mix to make it some kind of advantage. That's called GM, genetically modified food. Lots of people nickname Frankenfood. So kind of this monster kind of food that we create. He said, climate change raises sea levels and supersizes storms, makes them bigger. The threat of killer winds and crushing storm surges will grow by the year unless we get serious about tackling greenhouse gas. Okay, they'll get serious by the year. It means every year they'll get worse and worse and worse by the year, continuing. Tackling means to cope with or to manage, to try to deal with this problem. Other scientists say a mixture of rare weather systems cause Sandy. They say that warmer temperatures and rising sea levels were probably not the reason for the hurricane. Meteorologist Kevin Trenberth said of Sandy, a lot of different weather conditions that lined up caused what we might call a meteorological bomb. Okay, meteorology is the study of weather. So a meteorologist is a person like an expert in weather systems, of understanding how weather happens. This meteorologist, he said, it probably wasn't global warming, it was just really bad luck. You had this kind of temperature, this year, this year, this year, everything came together, just the wrong time, the wrong combination. That's what created it, not global warming, maybe. Sandy is certain to get politicians once again asking questions about fossil fuels and pollution. So, okay. Any questions from the article? In the other sections? Okay, so we have about 5 minutes. I'd like you to talk a little bit with your partner. What do you think about global warming? Do you think, what do you think are some of the future effects? How is it going to affect Tokyo? Atelier Francais is on a hill, but if sea levels rise, do you have to swim to English class? Do you try to be careful to reduce electricity use? What do you do to try to help, conserve or be better for the environment? This kind of discussion. So just for a few minutes with your partner, what do you think about this situation? This kind of environment, the Kyoto Protocol, these kinds of things. Okay, so that was the numbers. So let's take a look at the script really quick, and then we'll continue. So good evening, I'm Rafael Perez with the 6 o'clock news. At least 17 people have been injured in an accident on the freeway near San Francisco. The police said the truck that caused the accident was traveling at about 85 miles per hour, well over the 65 mile an hour speed limit. Well over just means significantly more. So well over, significantly more. Meanwhile, hundreds of transit workers have walked off the job in protest against the transit authorities' pay offer. If you walk off a job, it means you leave your work. It's a form of strike. It's basically a strike. I will not work unless you pay me more money. Now, it said the transit authority. Transit authority basically means the company or the branch of government that controls transportation. So they're in negotiation. So they say, we want this much money, okay, we'll give you this much money. They're very angry, they're very upset, they leave. They say, we won't work. So, come back. Okay. So, next one. The unions have asked for a raise of 8.5% over 2 years. Okay, unions. Do you understand this word? A union? Like a labor union? Labor union would mean organized labor, that they try to negotiate as a group to try to help their situation. So the unions, they want 8.5% over 2 years. So that's, not so huge. That's only about 4.5%. So, I don't know, maybe reasonable. In England, they have a lot of strikes. There's a lot of strikes, especially transportation. So before the Olympics, this last year, the last Summer Olympics, the City of London raised the transit workers' salaries by about 10 or 15% because they wanted to keep them very happy so they wouldn't strike during the Olympics. After the Olympics, maybe they decreased, I don't know, but they wanted to make them very happy. So anyway, 8.5%. There will be a meeting between their leaders and city officials later today. Just released, the latest unemployment figures show that the total number of unemployed people, 6.9 million, is essentially unchanged this month. Essentially means almost, basically. So it's a change. I mean, we have a change of 0.2%. But basically the same, almost the same. They're essentially unchanged. Over the year, unemployment has gone up slightly from 4.6 to 4.8%, which means 138,000 more unemployed for the year. The Secretary of Labor says some of this increase has been caused by the shutdown of auto plants in the Midwest. Okay, an auto plant. So auto would be cars, and a plant, of course, it could be like green plants, but here it just means factory. An auto plant means a car factory. So in the Midwest, you're talking maybe like Detroit or Kansas, Indiana, those big car manufacturing areas. Competition from Toyota and Nissan and other companies, maybe they had to shut down so more unemployment. And then in real estate, in housing, agents are predicting that housing prices will continue to go up this year, making it extremely difficult for first-time buyers to get into the housing market. Okay, a first-time buyer would be a person or a couple, maybe, that want to buy their first house. That's a first-time buyer. But it's difficult to get into the housing market, to start this process. Housing market often means you buy your first house, and then you maybe pay money into the house for 5 years or 10 years. Then you sell it, and then maybe you jump to a better house, a bigger house. But when you get into that process, that's called the housing market. But to get into it, to start to buy a house, very difficult. It's estimated that house prices have increased by 1/3 over the last 5 years. The average price of a single-family home in the US is now about $226,000, and now the weekend weather report. And he kind of finishes, he trails off. So let's try that one more time, and then we'll take a look at just a little bit of the discussion. Let's try again from the beginning.
Good evening. I'm Rafael Perez with the 6 o'clock news. At least 17 people have been injured in an accident on the freeway near San Francisco. The police said that the truck that caused the accident was traveling at about 85 miles an hour, well over the 65-mile-an-hour speed limit. Meanwhile, hundreds of transit workers have walked off the job in protest against the transit authority's pay offer. The unions have asked for a raise of 8.5% over 2 years. There will be a meeting between their leaders and city officials later today. Just released, the latest unemployment figures show that the total number of unemployed people, 6.9 million, is essentially unchanged this month. Over the year, unemployment has gone up slightly from 4.6 to 4.8%, which means 138,000 more unemployed for the year. The Secretary of Labor says some of this increase has been caused by the shutdown of auto plants in the Midwest. In real estate, agents are predicting that housing prices will continue to go up this year, making it extremely difficult for first-time buyers to get into the housing market. It's estimated that house prices have increased by 1/3 over the last 5 years. The average price of a single-family home in the U.S. is now about $226,000. And now the weekend weather.
Okay. All right, so let's take a look at some of the questions down below. In section C, we have three questions. Number one, what's the population of your country, your town, your city, etc.? Just what kind of numbers do you know for Japan or other countries? Two, what percentage of the people in your country speak English, have more than 2 children, have a dog, smoke, get divorced, etc.? Like, what kind of statistics do you know? And then 3, how much do these things cost? Cup of coffee, laptop computer, small apartment downtown, newspaper, DVD, a small car. Of course, you have to just think of like average cost, because there's huge range. So a downtown small apartment, maybe a 1 LDK or a 2 LDK. Downtown kind of means city center, but Tokyo city center is kind of difficult. Tokyo has lots of city centers. You have Shibuya, Shinjuku, Kibukuro, you have a lot of centers. So let's say, I don't know, Motosan, Roppongi Hills, I don't know, somewhere around there. How much do you think an average 1 LDK or 2 LDK apartment would cost? So what's your guess, I guess? So with your partner, just for a few minutes, and maybe, Natsuko, can you join Sachiko on this side? Maybe just a little bit different partner.